Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I'm your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan. And today, this is the last episode of the dead time off season.
Thank God, Grump, because my baseball season is spiraling out of control. So I need football back, even if it's watching guys running around in their underwear. That is fine with me. Let's get to football season. It is time.
You heard it here first. Cranky, ready for guys running around in their underwear.
Yeah.
Training camp starts today for those of you listening, right? Yeah.
It starts today. Hallelujah.
Yeah, really. And it was like beautiful all last week. This week it's going to be like 90-something degrees.
That's training camp. You know, we say it every year, whether we're out at the Meadowlands or like the first college game we go to Labor Day weekend. It's like, remember this super hot uncomfortable, because when we're sitting in the Meadowlands in week 16 and we're freezing our buns off, drinking our hot chocolates, we're going to be wishing it was hot again. So
I don't want to I always get this comment after I ever bring something like that up. It's like, oh, I always like the winter because you can always put on more layers.
Fuck that.
Okay. All right. So we're on the same page with that.
No, thank you. I can deal with the heat.
I'd rather sweat. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'd rather just go with the shorts and the t-shirt. Just give me a couple gallons of water and I'm fine. I can get a nice tan. I can deal with it. It's just that cold. And you all know, you all go to the Meadowlands. We don't get the nice look on TV. It's 6 inches of snow and it's fun out.
Oh, no.
We get 38 in rain. It's miserable.
Yeah.
It's miserable getting out there. It's miserable at the tailgate. It's miserable in traffic. It's miserable watching us lose. It sucks all around. So, no.
I mean, the other thing is that, I feel like once one part of your body is cold, it's just a slow climb until everything is. And there's only so many pairs of pants you can wear. So eventually your legs just get cold, and then you're cold all over. It doesn't matter that you're wearing 30 sweatshirts.
Well, I feel like Ralphie's brother in A Christmas Story, when he put on the 12 layers, he's walking around like this and he can't get his arms down.
Yeah.
I mean, because I have, the t-shirt, the sweatshirt, the jacket, the hat, the gloves.
Scarf, face mask, Under Armour, you name it. 3 pairs of socks. I've done it all, and it doesn't matter. I'm still cold after 20 minutes.
I'm still cold, I'm still wet, and I'm still miserable. So, no thanks. Would have been nice if they had a dome with 2 teams paying for it, but no.
No.
Thanks.
Speaking of money, before we get into the end of our season predictions here, with training camp starting, there is a bunch of news that came up this weekend.
Yeah.
What do you want? Do you want to get the Saquon stuff out of the way? Carl Banks went on a rant. So a brief update on what happened this weekend regarding Saquon Barkley, and then we'll kind of I'll let you take your opinion and you can throw it out there, and then I'll say mine and whatever. But there's a couple things that happened here. Barkley went on a podcast where he was able to speak a little bit more freely about his sticking points with negotiations with the Giants. He discussed that player comparisons is kind of what the wedge issue was with the Giants. Dan Duggan wrote a really good article for The Athletic about it. He broke it down. It was both fair and unfair. But truthfully, there is no exact replica for Saquon's production, the type of running back that he is. But the sticking point was essentially that the contract negotiations were based around downhill runners who do not offer anything in the receiving game. But when Duggan broke it down, when you factor in age, how far they were into their career, it kind of almost doesn't matter numbers-wise. He discussed on that podcast, he called holding out the whole season as, quote, a card I can play. I don't know.
Sure.
I guess so. Additionally, Austin Eckler, running back for, I don't know if he's currently signed, but previously most known for being with the Chargers, hosted a running back Zoom call where they could discuss their options and their grievances with their financial situations. I believe that went absolutely nowhere. It was a stupid waste of time. Pro Football Talk detailed that almost nothing happened. They had a source within it or something like that. And then this all culminated in what I think happened Sunday. Carl Banks did like a 35-minute rant on his podcast with Bob Papa, which essentially, and you can correct me if I missed anything here, but it boiled down to like his opinion was the best thing Saquon Barkley can do right now is to show up to work, be the best player that you know you can be, smile, and work on your brand, work on money after football, because negotiations are what they are, and the situation he's in is the situation he's in regardless of how he got there. But at the end of the day, the best move for him financially is to build his brand both right now for his marketability and also for beyond football, because his career window is going to be small no matter what. All of that is kind of like where we are right now. I don't think you anticipate Barkley showing up to camp at all. So give me your thoughts. That was sort of the weekend.
Yeah, let's work backwards from all that. Let's start with the Carl Banks thing, and let's preface the Carl Banks conversation with, if he's not officially an employee of the New York Giants, he is, you know, their second biggest mouthpiece in a public persona. I mean, him and Bob Papa are the voices you hear the most, and they are, again, if they're not employees of the Giants, their job is paid through the Giants.
They are certainly likely to be influenced by the organization.
Exactly. Right. So they are, they may not be implicitly saying, the team telling them what to say, but the Giants butter their bread. So just take that with a little bit of, grain of salt as you hear whatever he says. Now, do you know who Curt Flood is?
It sounds familiar. Kyle Flood. Am I thinking of Kyle?
No. Nope. Curt Flood was a baseball player for the St. Louis Cardinals back in the 60s. And the way contracts used to be in baseball was called the reserve clause, where you had a 2-year contract with a team. And when your contract expired, because of the reserve clause, they still had your rights. You did not have free agency.
Right. Okay.
You basically were at the mercy. You had to re-sign with the team that you were with, and you worked out whatever that deal was. So he was the guy who sued Major League Baseball. He was the trailblazer who got, the reserve clause taken away, and players ultimately became free agents. So once their contract was up, they could do whatever they want. I don't know if Saquon Barkley thinks he's trying to be a trailblazer in the Curt Flood mold, but he is not going to get the public sympathy that a guy like how they were back in the 60s, when these guys, A, didn't make nearly the amount of money that they do now, and B, it really was a lot more restrictive. We are now talking basically about a system where, we're kind of, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, am I going to get this million or this million? So if he thinks that he's going to gain public sympathy because I am not labeled as, I am being thought of as this type of running back versus this type of running back, and I am not getting my fair share, he's going to lose that, and he's going to lose that badly, I think. So in that way, I kind of agree with Carl Banks. It's like, something, this is something, if you don't like this, the only people you need to look at is your own union. Their players union negotiated this system with management for the NFL to have this system of a tag. Having this type of, kind of a way they can still hold on to you in the early part of your career before. This is agreed to. This is something that was, it really, if you think about it, it's fair for both sides. It allows teams to keep their players. It allows players to get fair market value, albeit for a much shorter time. Again, he is going to be, once he signs the tag and starts playing, will be one of the 5 highest paid running backs in the league. It's not like he's coming back for a minimum wage. It's not like he's not getting paid to play. So I think, it's in his best interest, like Carl says, play, build your case for next year, for getting that contract, whether it be with the Giants or somewhere else. Le'Veon Bell has already said he regrets the holdout after the second year of getting tagged, not the first year, the second year. And he's come, I think in the last 2 weeks, he said he regretted that decision. So again, this is not baseball. This is not even basketball where players can play 12, 15 years. You're an NFL running back. You don't play that long. If he's going to hold out a year, 8 games, that's money he's probably never going to get back over the rest of his career. So to me, they could say all they want now. They can blow off steam. We're not in a negotiation period. They can't negotiate for it. Say whatever they want. I don't think it means much of anything. I don't think the Giants care what he says. I think all you can do is just hurt your brand, hurt your image by holding out, by saying silly things, and just, hold out for training camp. I have no problem if you hold out for training camp. I don't want that freak injury. I don't need extra miles on the tires. And we'll talk about this. We will talk about the running backs we have in to get his rotation spots in training camp and in the preseason. But when it's time to play like an animal and earn that next contract.
Did you want to say something else about Banks's comments on branding people? This is like one of the few things that we did text about last night. His marketability in New York, I think you took issue with.
Oh yeah, the thing that was, I think there is still an old school mentality of, because we are in New York City, that your brand is worth more than other places. And remember, Carl Banks is an athlete who played in the 80s and the early 90s. And, that's a lifetime from where we are now. Multimedia, social media, player empowerment of controlling their own brand is so different now that it doesn't matter where you play, especially in the NFL. I mean, we're talking about, who just came to New York. Aaron Rodgers is one of the highest Q scores of anybody in the NFL, one of the most popular players, despite the fact he's become a real odd bird in the last couple of years and kind of a dick, but he moves the needle. Where has he played for the last 15, 16 years? Green Bay, Wisconsin. I mean, you can't tell me that, playing in Green Bay has hurt his image or his brand or his recognition factor. I mean, this is Saquon Barkley. This is a major star in this league. It doesn't matter where he plays. So I think for that fact, I think Carl Banks is wrong about playing here helps your brand, because I really think the way that the popularity of this league and the fact that you can live anywhere and watch all the games and all the opportunities. Social media is so big. You create your own brand. I don't think that's much of a factor anymore.
Okay, so I'm going to work my way in through backwards, because I sort of agree with you, but I think I disagree with you. I agree that being just by virtue of the fact that you play in New York is not worth as much as it was during Carl Banks' era. I agree with you there. I do still think that it's worth more than other places. I mean, like, the NFL is a team sport where a quarterback is always going to get the limelight no matter what. So while you make a good point about Aaron Rodgers being from Green Bay, he is a quarterback. And think about a non-quarterback from, for lack of a better term, a flyover state that is in the national spotlight for the NFL. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but what I will say is in New York, they do like to promote New York. They love to put New York versus Dallas in the lights. And Daniel Jones is not heavy competition for being, like a charismatic poster boy. You know what I mean? So there is opportunity here in New York for Barkley to take that spot, I think is a fairly decent point to make. Would you agree with that at least?
I would agree with that, sure. But also, Barkley has been now with the Giants for what, 5 years?
Yep.
Barkley is not a name, a personality that transcends football. I
agree with you. So here's where I was going to say with that.
Yeah. He's not Joe Namath. He's not Aaron Judge.
But he could be. He just isn't. He doesn't talk enough. He's not on things enough. He does. First of all, he's not on social media enough. And not that I think that people need to be or should be or whatever. But I mean, when you have a Twitter account and you never tweet anything and it's just ads whenever you do, you're not branding anything. You don't register as a human being to the average guy as much as
it's kind of the Mike Trout problem that baseball has, where they have similar personalities. They're just like, why aren't they marketing this guy more? He's the face of the game, and that's just not who he is. That's just not his
MO.
Fair. So I think, if this was year 2 in Barkley, it's like there's so many opportunities. I'm like, he's in year 5 going into year 6. You kind of are what you are.
A little bit.
He's not all of a sudden become, he's not going to become like a Derek Jeter, I think, later in life, becoming like the ironic spokesperson for Subway or whatever he is now. It's like, oh, he hasn't does things for so long, and I just don't see it. I mean, this is who he is, and I don't think that the branding. Let's put it this way: if he wanted to be that, ubiquitous guy who's all over the place in the face of everything, and something like what Odell Beckham probably wishes he was more, I think it would have happened already. I mean, they made the playoffs last year.
Well, wait. Here's the thing. I don't agree with that because he started out that way in his rookie year, but he was on shit teams, which is not going to help your branding, even if you are good. And then he got hurt. And then he stayed hurt. So, I mean, he really had a resurgence. I would say now is the time for him to brand himself, and I would agree with Carl Banks here, because right now the league is almost like shoehorning. The league is almost inflating what the Giants were last year at this point. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. This team, we all kind of agree that they probably overachieved relative to how good they were last year. And the playoff win certainly helped that. But look, they're on prime time how many times?
I forget.
I mean, a lot for a team that's not a Super Bowl contender. They are still one of the marquee teams in this league. They have the brand. They have the fan base. So he should be able to piggyback off of that into...
And, I mean, I do think that right now, while they're trying to prop up as much Giant stuff as there is, Daniel Jones not being a natural, charismatic, social guy, there is a spot for him to nestle himself in there. And I think it's certainly fair for Carl Banks to say that he has value here doing that where he wouldn't somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, if he goes... I don't know, I'm pulling this out of my ass, but Denver, where it's sort of kind of a flyover state, but you also have Russell Wilson, I don't think that your marketability is the same as it is here, right? It's certainly different than it were 20 years ago, but I don't think that when they cut to commercial for NBC, it's going to be pictures of Barkley. It'll be pictures of Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that again, you're fighting against a quarterback. You're right. So yeah.
And in this league, that's sort of what it is. But in any case, I do agree with you. It's not the same as it was in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure.
My whole takeaway on this Barkley thing, and I've kind of already stated this, but he took a gamble. He lost. That sucks. I get it. He's still getting a fully guaranteed raise of about $3 million. It's just another prove year for him. And yeah, I think he should be the biggest brand that he can. I don't agree with Carl that, I mean, I sort of agree that it's in his interest to just show up to work and be a football guy and just to come out here and be a monster on the field. I agree with that, but also protect yourself a little bit. I understand not going to training camp. I get it from a player perspective there. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is the time for him to brand himself if he really wants to make... And he should want to make money after football because, you know what, man? He's already had the big injury once.
Well, I mean, he's also the guy that said, a couple of months ago, I don't want to be the one who has to necessarily set the market. So when that was your kind of, it's easy to say things like that to get people on your side to do it, but now if you're going to take a 180 basically an attitude from I don't need to set the market to I'm not playing. Sounds like that might have been some bullshit you were saying before, or your true colors are coming out now. And something I'm going to be honest also, this might be an unpopular hot take, but I don't necessarily fault him. When you start getting into your sixth, seventh, eighth year in the league, you have to think about your money and the most money as you can get.
Sure.
So it's very easy for us to play God with other people's health, career, finances, all of that stuff, brand and everything. We're not them. We are average schmucks. They have to think about big picture because these decisions, and I don't want to hear where they're all millionaires. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter.
It does matter.
We're talking, generational money that they can go on and they can do things, seed money for someone like a Magic Johnson who can all of a sudden, create like a business empire, or LeBron James or something. So these are not easy decisions to make. And right now, much like saying I don't want to reset the market was just kind of like just talking when it wasn't really negotiating time. What he's saying now is also just talking. It's not renegotiation time.
For real.
We're not up against a deadline yet. So let him say what he wants to. If it makes him feel better, blow off steam. It's not gonna make any difference either way. And the real countdown will be when we get to the first week in September, and he makes a decision. He's going to go out there and play, or he's going to take a stand, lose money, and we'll see.
Yeah, he's showing up week 1. It is what it is. But I mean, so you mentioned about fault of the union. This issue with not being this kind of running back, but being this one, and I offer more, but these contracts all factor into my franchise tag, and that's bullshit, and don't compare me to them and their contract. I understand that, and I think that's a fair thing, but the NFLPA has they're a shitty union that does the bare minimum for their players. They have a real dichotomy between what veterans need and what rookies want. And honestly, this kind of issue with positional versatility and how it impacts the tag could have been addressed after it didn't work for Jimmy Graham way back in 2012 when he felt he should be paid like a wide receiver for what he offered as a tight end. They could have foreseen this kind of issue. They absolutely could have. This is already an issue with offensive linemen in their franchise tags. But they didn't do anything about it. Maybe players didn't see it coming, whatever. But I mean, you would hope that union reps would see something like this coming and defend it.
Yeah, it's a union that has no teeth. I mean, this is a union where players have been complaining for years about the turf at MetLife Stadium. What did the union do about it? Nothing. Basically, the Giants decided, okay, the shelf life of the turf is done. It's time to replace it. If the union had teeth like the baseball union, you could bet your ass there would have been a solution done before that if there are all these people complaining about the turf.
Okay, moving on. That's enough
Yes.
Saquon talk, I think.
Yes.
Since we won't expect him for the next couple of weeks, but we'll expect him week 1, right?
Agreed. I really don't want to talk about him anymore until that happens, honestly.
Cool. Okay. In other news, really briefly, the Giants signed both Cole Beasley and James Robinson. Really, really quickly, just going to go over them. Cole Beasley, slot wide receiver. He's 34 years old, 5'8", 175. Undrafted out of SMU, went to Dallas. He's a longtime Cowboy. He was once described to me in a text by the Cranky fan as, quote, such a little turd. I remember that very clearly. He was with the Bills from 2019 to 2012 with Brian Daboll. 2019 to 2021. And other than 1 year with the Cowboys, this was his most productive time in his career, highest amount of targets and catches. And then 2022, he was with Tampa Bay, then the Bills. Not a very productive season. Again, 34 years old. And then, go ahead, give me your thoughts.
I say he retired last year, right? I think he might have. Yeah, that was. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, he came out of retirement, I believe. My kind of take on Cole Beasley is that he is solid. He is a solid veteran slot wide receiver option, and he is a camp competition for Sterling Shepard, who may not be healthy enough to be relied on. And it's up to the two of them to battle it out, I think. And it's most likely going to stay Sterling Shepard, I think.
I think at best he is insurance in case Sterling Shepard can't play in the beginning of the season. And if nothing else, he is a guy who can give you reps during training camp. So Sterling Shepard, if he's not 100% in camp, can take a limited amount of reps or something and not impact the rest of the offense getting ready for the regular season. I don't see him at all seriously competing for anybody for any playing time or even a roster spot unless he's needed in that capacity.
So what I actually think is I think Wan'Dale Robinson is probably going to start the year on the PUP list or in some other fashion be limited in the beginning of the year. I think Sterling Shepard will take the reins for most of the beginning of the year. And I think what's likely to happen is that if in the middle of the year or the end of the year they need to bring in a veteran guy, I think it's possible that Cole Beasley will still be sitting around. He'll have already learned a lot of the offense from training camp and the preseason, and they can bring him in that capacity. I think that's what this really... I think he's not going to make the 53-man roster. I think he's going to be at home on his couch at some point in the year, and he'll be an option for them to pick up the phone and call should the worst happen. I think that's what this is.
And I think because you're also kind of butting up against the salary cap, you kind of have to make dumpster dive moves like this where...
Of course, yeah.
You take a flyer on it, and if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul. And again, the bare minimum, I think he can provide... he's a veteran guy who can provide the reps that are needed in camp. So you're not having guys out of position to do things, and you're wasting everybody's time in camp. So
right.
That's, little turds have roles in this world also, and this might be the one for him.
Also, I think if you need to pull in a guy at some point in the middle of the year to cover a 6-game stretch or something like that, it's better to have a 34-year-old veteran with fresh legs that probably can only do about 6 games, but can adjust very quickly, is used to learning things on the fly. He's been around the league. He understands things. He'll probably build a rapport with Daniel Jones quicker and the other wide receivers quicker. So he's got the work ethic to pick up a playbook and learn it in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's better that than elevating some rookie off the practice squad that didn't even make the 53-man roster to expect him to do all that. So I get this for what it is, I think.
We've done a lot of that in the past with varying degrees of success. It's just the likelihood of... And we're not talking about a guy who's going to take over as a starter and get 1,000 yards all of a sudden. We're talking about, somebody who can give, and maybe in week 7 can give you 35 snaps and catch 4 balls and maybe one first down.
Yeah, I was going to say it'll be a very important first down when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It'll be a big play, but you're not counting on him to do much production, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
James Robinson, on the other hand, running back. He is only 24 years old, 5'9", 214. Brief stuff about him as a player. He is not the fastest guy, but I do think that his breakaway speed is faster than his 4.6 40 time. It just doesn't look like 4.6 to me. That's a little slow. He bounces off tacklers really, really well. He has decent vision behind the line of scrimmage. He can get skinny through the hole and burst through. He might be a little careless with the ball for my tastes, just the way he carries it. But, that's James Robinson in a brief nutshell. Undrafted out of Illinois State to Jacksonville in 2020. He was a 1,000-yard rusher in his rookie season. He was also named the starter right out of camp. So there's that. 2021, he was playing well with Jacksonville, but week 16, he tore his Achilles. And week 16, super late in the year. So 2022, he was not having a great season. He was traded to the Jets midway through the year when Breece Hall got hurt. He was clearly shittier after the injury. And then earlier this year, I think in March, he signed with New England for a 2-year, $8 million contract or something like that. But then he was released in June amidst concerns about his health. And I think it had something to do with the way the deal was laid out. New England would have been on the hook financially Like, they were exposed to some kind of financial liability if he couldn't play. Mm-hmm. So they ended up releasing him in June, which put him on the market. The Giants swept in. I'm just gonna throw my thoughts. You can kind of give me, but I think at 24 years old, this is a very low risk, high reward situation. Maybe you get nothing for him, but you're not paying much. But you're getting a very young guy who had an unproductive last year because of a bad injury. It is certainly possible that he can recover from that and become something closer to the 1,000-yard rushing rookie that he was in Jacksonville. I think that this is a creative offense that can maximize the talents of somebody who is maybe not the fastest or the flashiest. But at the end of the day, I think what this really is veteran backup competition with, like, everyone behind Barkley. I don't think this has anything to do with Barkley directly. I think this is competition for Matt Breida. I think Gary Brightwell's off this team, and I think Eric Gray is here for this year no matter what. So I think this is more threatening to Matt Breida than anybody else.
You just answered my question. I was going to say, would they have made this move if Barkley signed a deal?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I think this is competition for Breida, who I think he performed well last year. I think he could have shouldered even more. I think they could have done more cool stuff with him and Barkley in the backfield at the same time. But all things considered, he didn't deserve a walk in the park in camp this year. Mm-hmm. He's not that good. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think this, even if Barkley signed the deal, I think this is still a move that you make. Especially because he's 24. There's a good chance that he goes out there and blows Matt Breida out of the water in training camp. Certainly possible.
Yeah, I mean, we do not have a Thunder and Lightning, Ahmad Bradshaw, Brandon Jacobs with those two guys. I mean, we have the Thunder. We don't. I don't think there is a Lightning piece to this. And I'm not saying one's fast and one's big. Just the complement of, if not equals, at least like a notch below Tonto to Lone Ranger. So yeah, I think we can. You're bringing him in for competition again at a low cost, and you see what happens. And in the meantime, you're going to need quality reps in camp because Barkley's not going to be there. Again, you don't want to burn these guys out. You don't want to bring in stiffs off the street just to run the play, and it's not doing anybody any good. You're running practice. You're running drills. You want the drills to mean something. So you're elevating the skill set of guys who are running drills. And I think that's important.
Yes.
Hey, pause for 1 second, okay?
Okay.
I got to plug this in.
Sure.
I don't know what happened with that noise, but there's nothing on Twitter.
You mean X?
Sorry. That should be a joke when we're finishing here.
I'm pretty upset. I think this thing's a piece of shit. I wouldn't sign up for this app if I didn't have it already right now.
Twitter?
Yeah. There's a DM limit now.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, unless you pay.
Oh, because I'm not missing anything by not being on it.
No, really not.
That's the first time in 3 weeks I've logged in just because I want to find out if there's be talking about any loud noise.
Explosions,
yeah. Okay.
Moving on really briefly, just want to touch on this. Dan Snyder officially, I think the sale officially happened with Josh Harris. And somebody on Twitter, or X, as it's now known, ridiculous. Somebody broke down his 24-year tenure with the Washington Commanders. Okay, he has had 3 team names in 24 years, 386 games. He went 164, 220, and 2, which is sub 500. In 24 years, he had 10 coaches, only 6 playoff berths, 4 division titles, and they were all right at the beginning of his tenure, I'm pretty sure. But most of them were.
Yeah, one was a couple of years ago, but that was it. That was like a one-off, and that's because they got extremely hot at the end of one season.
27 starting QBs for more than one game.
Wow, the Browns think that sucks.
And only 2 All-Pros in 24 years.
Holy
that
Jesus.
is an accomplishment, man.
I mean, even Al Davis found guys to be in the Pro Bowl. Even Jerry Jones found guys that got in the Pro Bowl from drafting. So, wow.
And because the NFL, as an ultimate brand, was doing well, he managed to turn an $800 million team into a $6 billion team by fucking accident.
And that feels undervalued based on the stadium they have, the potential for having a new stadium with infinite more revenue streams. They've eroded away a 40-year waiting list for season tickets to empty empty seats at home games now. It's just kind of it's a franchise that really needs an overhaul, image-wise, branding-wise, just breathing new life into it.
Yeah, just wanted to touch on that. We have been blessed. I don't know if I've ever talked about this in the podcast, and I'm not making this a big long thing, but I have in the past made the argument that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady had one benefit of just a cakewalk division for such a huge part of their tenure in New England. And meanwhile, I guess I ignored that Dan Snyder was possibly the worst owner in sports in our own division. So things, I think, do you agree that things are going to get tougher in the division now with Josh Harris here? But it can't get any easier.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think, it can't get any worse. I mean, it depends on, let's get past the first couple of years of new owner needs to make big splash and usually makes short-sighted decisions that don't help the longevity of the franchise. But let's get past that. If he hires the right people and gives them the leeway to do their jobs, yeah, it's definitely worrisome. It seems like we have 2 ownership groups and 2, between Philly and Washington that may be stable now. Dallas is always going to be a bit of a wild card, and may Jerry Jones live till he's 135 to keep it that way. But no, when you get stability and you get someone that hires well, lets them do their jobs, doesn't butt in, that makes me worried. Sure, in a big market where you can afford to do things, I know there's a salary cap, but you can spend money in a lot of other ways to make your franchise more attractive to free agents. You can build a $1 billion training facility. You can do the things that attract free agents and just make it more of a desirable place to play. They have a new stadium they're going to have to build at some point, whether it's going to be in Virginia or the district or wherever. And now that Daniel Snyder's not there, some municipality is going to step up and pay for a large majority of it. And it's not going to be a piece of garbage. It's going to be, top notch. I mean, look at the plans for a new Jacksonville stadium. I mean, it's just like something out of, the 23rd century, and that's Jacksonville. So, yeah, I think the free ride we had for Snyder was great. It set the team back generations, but I think that free ride's over. What?
No, it was just funny. They also might be in for a rebrand, which is hilarious to me.
If there ever was a franchise that needed a total rebranding of everything, it is this organization. I mean, we make fun of Jerry Jones for being a bad owner and being a meddlesome one, but Jerry Jones is not the moral piece of shit that Daniel Snyder was, and just
very true.
I mean, yeah, we make fun of Jerry Jones because it looks like he has hookers up in his booth when he in Super Bowls and things. So that's nothing compared to, just the evil that Snyder was. All these allegations and things he's been fined for, and all this, criminal activity. So, and all of that just kind of, you just need to start fresh, and having a new owner come in, it's not like everybody's in love with the Commanders and, we've had that name for 90 years, we can't change it. They've already done that. The heavy lifting is over. And there's not going to be any Save Our Commanders people out there for sure. So I think it's a genius move. And as a Gator, let's get rid of those awful garnet and gold colors so it'll remind me of Florida State anymore.
Oh, that's not going anywhere. That would be a really bizarre if they got rid of the colors.
Who knows?
I mean, it's possible, but I really doubt. Only because they're super old. Like if they were, like an AFL team like the Oilers, not really moving locations. I mean, they might get a new stadium, but they're not.
Well, aren't the Lions looking at doing a major rebranding also? They've had that color scheme for a billion years, and I think they might do something radical like that.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there you go.
We will see. So this year, you and I are going to make a trip down to FedEx Field. It might be one of the last times that we can do it.
Sure. Yeah, we should. I mean, it's an easy train ride. If anyone wants to join us, let's go.
And that segues directly into the last half of the episode. It's going to be the last one of our season predictions.
Pencils and pens.
Weeks 13 through 18. Week 13 is a bye week, so we roll into week 14. Green Bay Packers at the New York. What?
Let's catch up. And what's our records?
I'll get there, man. God damn it! Keep your fucking pants on. Week 14, Green Bay at New York. They roll in Monday Night Football, just as we were saying before, primetime games. December 11th at 8:15. You have the Giants hosting the Green Bay Packers at 6-6 at Week 14, which is, would you call that a make or break moment? I guess so. It's kind of a shit or get off the pot.
Well, I mean, we're 6-6 according to my brain and the narrative I created for myself. They've gone through a rough patch. We've talked about in last week's episode. This is where it's the first time you're hearing some disgruntled Giant fans wondering, what is this coaching staff doing? What is this front office doing? I expected more coming off of last year. Blah 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 blah. We limp into the bye week. We're 6-6. Most likely, Philly, as if not locked up the division, is pretty close. I don't think Dallas is going to be as good as they were last year. So, barring some extraordinary circumstances, I think Philly is going to be, might be just lapping the field in this division. But we have plenty to fight for. And if you're 6-6, it's put up or shut up, because if you keep losing at this point in the season, your chances of making the wild card are slim. So there is a sense of urgency, and it starts off, I think, at the perfect time with the perfect opponent in Green Bay.
Okay, so you think that they do well in this game?
I do. I think, coming off the bye week, I think that this team has 2 weeks to prepare. This is not your father's Green Bay. Jordan Love is your quarterback. Even though Aaron Rodgers is not Aaron Rodgers anymore, there's still a lot of question marks about Jordan Love. Is he ready to be a starting quarterback in this league? I think the Giants, I think they're going to win this game, and I think this is a win in pen, and one of the very few wins in pens I have this year. I think they come off and a renewed sense of enthusiasm and hope that they can get a wild card win by beating Green Bay, starting it off.
So I have the Giants rolling in back home, limping back from, I guess they had the bye week the week before they hosted New England, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one I had them losing.
You did.
I have them at 8-4. They have the time off. They stay home. They were home for 2 weeks now. Then they get to play Monday Night Football, so they get an extra day of rest. I think this is a win in pen. When I look at this defense, I see maybe like 1 or 2 guys to worry about at all 3 levels. Maybe Lucas Van Ness is as scary as a rookie as I think he might be eventually. But, I'm worried about like Jair Alexander. And that's like the main concern on defense.
They were bad against the run last year. And, again, in our model, we're assuming Saquon is back.
Yeah.
It'll be a distant memory, the holdout. I mean, we may be getting into what's he going to do next season,
right?
Which might be very annoying. But I think what's he doing in 2023 will be long put to bed and everything. And I think he might just have a field day in this game. It might be one of those, we jump out to an early lead and they lean on Saquon, lean on the power game, and by then my thought that Evan Neal will be a lot better than he was this year will hopefully be put into proven effect. This offensive line is gelling, and he puts up some pretty big numbers.
I also look at, I mean, I do think that Green Bay has a nice crop of receivers. I like Aaron Jones as a running back. They have some stuff working with, David Bakhtiari's a really good tackle. I do like Elton Jenkins at left guard. But at the end of the day, you have a nice young crop of talented receivers, but no experience. And probably the biggest question mark at quarterback that's not a rookie in the entire league.
Well, I would say San Francisco too.
San Francisco, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But right up there with them. I think it's about
Absolutely.
even.
Absolutely.
I would say even San Francisco, you have at least some clutch performances to go off of that. You can make something work. I don't know if you have. Do you have anything with Jordan Love?
Yeah, you have anecdotal evidence with San Francisco. You have nothing with Jordan Love.
You have nothing with Jordan Love.
The most people know about Jordan Love is the fact that the Packers drafted him. Aaron Rodgers got pissed.
Pretty much.
Right?
So, I mean, I look at this and I don't see a roster advantage for Green Bay.
I do not either.
I think the Giants should be able to rattle them. I think they'll force mistakes. I think this is a win in pen. I don't think that this is going to be real difficult. So that puts you at 7-6, me at 9-4, feeling good. Week 15, Ooh. Giants travel down to New Orleans Sunday, December 17th at 1:00. Is this not a travel game for us?
It's too close to Christmas.
Yeah. Okay.
That's usually our big family amuck in the city weekend. Where
you're
we go
right. Yeah,
you're
right.
And stuff. Yeah, we'll find a bar somewhere. Don't worry.
Okay. How are we feeling for you? 7-6 Giants traveling to New Orleans.
Everything in my brain tells me this is a game we would lose. Going to New Orleans, we never do well in New Orleans. Just fluky, crazy things happen. Not this year. I think this year is like one of those, we don't expect the Giants to win there, and guess what? They go in. I know they got Derek Carr now. Who knows? He may not even be the quarterback at the end of the year. It could be Jameis. It could be whoever. I just think that I feel a late season surge with this team. And I feel like we go into New Orleans, and I think Daniel Jones is playing his best ball of the season now. I think Saquon is playing his best ball of the season now. I think after having a monster game against Green Bay, he's going to, piggyback off of that and have another big game. I think we go in there and I think we win in pencil. And I think we are building momentum towards that wild card run.
Yeah, so I look at this and I don't feel too great about it. I like your story better, but I think on offense the Giants might have like some kind of trench advantage there, maybe. But my bigger issue is that this is a really deep and talented New Orleans secondary. They are, with Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, Alontae Taylor, Bradley Roby, Jonathan Abram. That's deep secondary right there.
My man Marcus May might have some legal issues, so he might not even be playing. So
could be. We'll see.
Yeah.
As of right now, he's slotted to play, so got to roll with it.
Yeah.
That worries me, and I think it's going to be difficult to hit things down the field. And that might severely limit it. If we have to play the short game, that means that we're playing close. And then when you flip to the defense, you might be able to get something of an edge presence, but I don't see any clear advantages anywhere on defense. And I think Derek Carr is a maybe not criminally, but I think he's an underrated quarterback. I'm not sure that this is the fit for him, but I'm certainly more afraid of him than I am Jameis Winston. Alvin Kamara is still Alvin Kamara no matter what. Michael Thomas, Chris Olave. There's some talent here, and I'm not really sure. I don't know. I have this as a loss in pen. I think playing there. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get blown out. I feel very confident that this is a shit game. It's just they don't play well there. I think it's a hard place to play. And I look at this, I don't see, like, when I look at depth charts and stuff, I don't see a clear roster advantage anywhere.
This is a game, and I started with my conversation about this, and another game coming up where, I feel pretty confident in one thing that should happen. I would bet on it, and I would lose. And I think this is, again, my head tells me going into New Orleans this time of year means a loss, but I think, the NFL is a little quirky. I'm throwing one of my quirky chips and using it and saying this is the one we do win where you don't think we're going to win. So
I get it.
Yeah.
And that brings us into week 16. You have us at 7-6. Sorry, you have 2 wins in a row.
8-6 now.
8-6 now. And I have us at 9-5. The Giants are traveling to Lincoln Financial in Philadelphia on Christmas afternoon, December 25th. It's a Monday at 4:30. All right, let's hear it.
I'm calling it right now. This is going to be a win in pencil.
Ooh.
And I was almost debating a win in pen. Here's my reasons.
I'm ready for this.
Not that I'm an insane person who should be carted away, but a bunch of factors. One, as I alluded to before, Philly may have run away with this division by now. And they may not be in serious tank mode. They may be in kind of play closer to the vest mode. So, that's one thing. The second thing.
So you're talking more of players aren't resting, but the play calls are more conservative?
A little bit.
Okay, I understand that.
If at this point now, and it's really potential, if Philly is something like 11-2 or at this point or something, they may want to keep things to the vest because they know the playoffs are coming and they don't want to, just it feels like a coach that would do something like that, who thinks he's a little too smart for everybody else. Second thing, the game is Christmas Day, and there is something to be said for a fan base that we always talk about. The Giants season ticket holder sells their tickets when it's a primetime game or if they have the opportunity to make more money or something. I have a hunch that the serious, a segment of the Eagle fan base might spend time with their families on Christmas Day. Even if the weather's not so hot, they sell their tickets and they make some money. They're 11-2, watch the game at home around the fireplace. So you have either the second tier of Eagle fan there or more Giant fans in the building than would normally be, especially if they're making this serious run. So I don't think you'll have the normal home field advantage you would like on the playoffs, for example, last year, or in a normal, bunch of animals that are there. So I think that might be a little bit of an advantage also. And 3, I think the Giants, they're right in the middle of that wild card run. They're on momentum now. They've won 2 in a row. They see the finish line, and I just think they play with more urgency. And, obviously Philly's more talented. They're a better team. We get all of that. But I just think, again, in the narrative built in my head, they come off with a win. So I'm going to put this as a win in pencil.
So you don't think there's any chance that the Philly fan spends Christmas with their family around the fire in a barrel and in the parking lot, and then they just all go to the stands?
I think a lot of them will, but I think there'll be a segment that doesn't.
No, I agree with you. I follow that reasoning. I think that's fair. I especially agree with your scenario of the Giants on a roll going into a weakened stadium, a team that has less to play for on Christmas Day, no less. I think it's a chance to nab one. I have this as a loss in pen.
That's fine. I mean, the only thing that kind of throws a fly into the ointment of my theory is that organization lives, breathes, sleeps, shits, screws to mess with the New York Giants. I mean, that to them, beating the Giants, owning the Giants, to them is like owning the libs. That's what they'd rather do almost as much as winning a Super Bowl. So you may take my whole logic about them maybe, looking ahead, and they may just say, fuck it, it's the Giants, let's just kill them. But who knows?
I think I'm just it may be in a couple years before I am no longer worried about this defensive line matching up against our offensive line. Especially thanks to the fact that Howie Roseman cheated the NFL and got an extra draft pick for no reason whatsoever. I don't think that the edge position is as scary as it used to be for this team, which is thankful. I mean, now that we have good tackles, that might actually not really be a big issue for us anymore, is the edge position. I think that void left by TJ Edwards in the middle of the field is a bigger void than people maybe realize. But with that said, like, we don't know what Nakobe Dean is going to be. He could be a bust that doesn't transition to actually being a linebacker. He might just be like a Georgia athlete that was just better than everybody else at the SEC level and not shit in the NFL. So that's like a huge question mark for me. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that this secondary can be exploited. I think that they're overrated. I think James Bradbury had a good year last year. I think he just played on a great team. I think Darius Slay at this point in his career is overrated and overpaid. But I just get worried about that defensive line. I mean, if he can't run the ball, if Daniel Jones can't step up in the pocket, if he's frequently running for his life, it's going to be a problem. And I think that, defensively, we'll be able to put up a fight, especially in the trenches. But at the end of the day, this is a very dynamic offense with a lot of speed, a lot of skill position talent that I just don't know that we're ready to match up with yet. I don't think the disparity between the teams is even... I think it's less than half as bad as it was last year, right? Like, they're much closer to competing with this team this year than they were last year.
I'd say they're closer. I wouldn't go it much closer. I think this, to me, is a situation of time and place.
I'm saying much closer, not because the Giants got that much better, but because they got a little bit better, and the Eagles, I think, got a little bit worse roster-wise.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think if this game is in Week 6, I would have this as a loss in magic marker.
Yeah, I have this a loss in pen anyway, but...
Yeah, I have this because where I have it in the schedule, and I think that little quirkiness of, having it on Christmas Day, having it late in the season, we haven't faced them yet. This game may not mean as much to one team as it does the other team. I think we have a chance to sneak a win out of here, and I think we do.
That puts us both at 9-6, buddy.
Okay, nice.
How about that? You thought I was running away with it, and we caught right back up with each other. Following that, on New Year's Eve, as usual, we're either playing on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. 1 o'clock, the Giants are all the way out on the West Coast playing the Los Angeles Rams. Tell me what you think.
This game's in LA or is it home? I thought it was at home.
I have it written down as at LA. Am I wrong? I could be wrong.
Game's at home.
Okay. All right.
I will not be able to go to this game because I will be on the West Coast, unfortunately. This is another win. I have this as another win. I have this as a win in pen. I think one of the very few win in pens I have this year. What do you think about the Rams? It's a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago and was not good last year, and coaching questions about the coach. How long? I don't know. Stafford question marks to me. I just have the feeling the Giants this is a must-win game for the Giants. Again, I think they win this. They clinch a wild card spot. I'm going to look into my crystal ball and say the Rams are not in the wild card hunt, so it's meaningless for them. I think we take care of business. We win in pen.
I agree with you. I think the Rams are shot. I would have understood, but it would have been a bitch move for the coach to retire or leave the Rams after they won the Super Bowl because they went all in. He had to know they were going to be a little bit shittier, and Matt Stafford was not going to get any younger. He's not going to get any closer to his prime. I'm glad he didn't. It would have been a bitch move, I think, for a coach to roll out like that as young as he is.
And listen, the Rams did the right thing going all in because it worked out.
It worked.
They won a Super Bowl. Don't let anybody ever tell you different that, they mortgaged the future. They did this. If you win a Super Bowl, I mean,
it's worth it.
As much as I don't like the Bucs, it worked out by getting Tom Brady because you got a Super Bowl. And I have a lot of friends who are Buck fans, and none of them feel like they rented to get a Super Bowl, or they just, piggyback Brady and just got a cheap one. They all feel it is just as important to them as their first one. So they did what they had to do. They may suffer for it in the back end, but they have a Super Bowl. You don't think that's important? Ask Cleveland. Ask Minnesota. Ask Buffalo. Teams that have never won one. Ask the Jets.
Ask Detroit. Yeah. Well, the Jets have one.
Oh, yeah, but something, those people who remember that are now in their upper 60s.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I look at this team and they're shot. They have, some things here and there, but this defense is a total mess. And this is interesting. I actually think the Giants have a trench advantage. The Giants' offensive line has a trench advantage against an Aaron Donald team.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, Aaron Donald might have a good game, but I don't think that he himself will make up for the rest of this defense. It is just nobody's. Mm-hmm. I think it would take a colossal amount of coaching and scheming to get this defense to do anything productive. I think that there's not enough on the offense. And I think they're going to eat them up. I think this is a win in pen. I think DJ runs and throws on the move. He'll eat this whole defense up. I think that this is going to be very similar of a situation as the Colts game last year.
Yes, that's exact. I was trying to think of the scenario. I forgot who the team was when I was going through my thought about this, but absolutely. One of those games where we just take care of business.
Yep.
And I think
that was a beautiful game for us last year. We got the good seats. We got the good food.
Good to meet you. No, I mean, I completely agree. I think that's a testament to our coaching staff too, that, they had that team ready to play where it's like, take care of business, and they did.
And that brings us both to 10-6. The Giants get to host the Eagles this time, Sunday, January 7th. I do not believe we have a time scheduled for this game yet. Doesn't matter. It's probably going to get flexed anyway, so saying it's on Sunday, January 7th is probably disingenuous. 10-6, we both hit the double-digit win marker. That's an improvement over last year. 9-win team last year. Tell me how much better the Giants are. Go ahead.
Well, first, for this game, my prediction is by halftime, the 10 best players on both teams will no longer be in the game. I don't think you're going to see Jalen Hurts or Daniel Jones play in this game at all. I think the game is completely meaningless. I think the Giants have locked up a wild card spot. I think Philly, unfortunately, is locked up home field throughout the playoffs. I think this is as bare-boned of a game as you saw last year in the Philly game to end the season. It may be even uglier for this one. Simple reason being, and this may sound stupid, the game's on turf as opposed to on grass. And maybe they just want to protect people even more. So I think it's one of those, it's even impossible for me to even make a prediction. But since I'll be a homer and say Giants and pencil. But it means literally nothing.
I like that scenario. If the Giants have their playoff situation wrapped up by week 18, wild card or otherwise, I don't care. I like not having to worry about the last couple games of the year.
Sure.
I don't see it that way. I don't think 10 wins locks up anything. It's certainly possible. I wouldn't rule out the Cowboys in some scenario being able to overtake us at 11 wins or something like that. So I don't think that this is going to be that way for both teams, but I do think that this is probably going to be that way for the Eagles. And as much as they do like to troll, they like winning in the playoffs more. And
yeah.
So, last year was a fairly close game by score. Davis Webb, may he remember this game in his mind. Last year, his touchdown throw to Kenny Golladay.
I think I was darning my socks by the third quarter of that game. So that's how important it was to me.
Yeah, I have this as a win in pencil, but I have it pretty much because the Giants have more to play for than the Eagles. And even though the Eagles want to stick it to us, the players on that team are very upset that they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm thinking, in my scenario, they would already have 10 wins going into week 18.
Right.
That to me, I mean, it would be very difficult not to make the playoffs if you have 10 wins by that point, right? To be the third wild card.
Yeah, I guess in the NFC that would be pretty hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through the who would be in, who would be out scenario.
No. We haven't done this exercise with other teams. I'm just saying, in a Giant-centric world where things are reasonable, reasonable being probably the one seed probably has 2 or 3 losses. The wild cards there's probably one wild card team, and it could be Dallas that, is 12-5 and is a higher wild card than us.
Yeah.
I just think if we have 10 wins going into that last game, I don't think we're going to be playing harder for wild card seeding.
Right. So, okay, I think I see what you're saying. So there's not going to be 3 non-division leading teams with more wins already.
That's my point. Yeah. Exactly.
That's fair.
I think it was a question of, well, if they win this game, they can win in division, get a bye week. I think they try. I think if it's this wild card versus this wild card spot, I think the bigger picture is rest them. Let's have a mini bye week and worry about the wild card next week.
Yeah, I guess I didn't consider it that way with the extra wild card spot this year. Regardless, I have this a win in pencil. I still think that they would be playing for a better wild card spot, better matchup. Doesn't the third wild card have a shittier run through?
Potentially, but also just because somebody has a better record doesn't necessarily mean they're better. I mean, you might be a division winner in a crappy division may have more wins.
No, I know, but I mean, if you're looking ahead like that, you kind of already see how the seeding is going to go, and you can kind of be like, look, I don't want to screw around where if we lose this game, we wind up playing Philly again in 2 weeks or something like, you know what I mean? Or I mean, maybe that's a bad example, but maybe it's playing Dallas in the first round because they lost this game.
I think you focus more on getting healthy and getting the rest.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I think the Eagles have very little to play for, and they are definitely itching for a Super Bowl. So this is a win in pencil for me. And we both end the season 11-6. How about that? And we did not do this exercise together.
Yes, and we got there on a completely different roads to get there. But I think I'm coming in winning 5 in a row.
Yeah, but see, yeah, this sort of played into what I thought. I didn't think the Giants were going to be a huge letdown in the playoffs. I thought they were going to maybe they'll win 2 playoff games, but I think limping into the playoffs as opposed to rolling in is probably more likely. I think they'll get off to a faster start and a shittier end.
I didn't work backwards from saying the record's going to be this. To me, I went just forward, like each week. How do I felt this was going, and just all of a sudden, bye week, and then win happened. So
yeah,
there was no master plan. It was just I let it.
No, not for me either. But I do think that it plays into what I think happens in the playoffs a little bit. Mm-hmm. So how about that? Eliminated 6 season with a couple of playoff wins, hopefully. I would be happy with that. I'd sign up for that anytime.
A couple of playoff wins. So you having us going to
possible.
The conference final.
Well, if they're a wild card, not necessarily. They would win a wild card and then a division game.
Wild division, okay.
Oh, then I guess then it would go to the conference final, right?
Yeah.
No, you're right. I could see it. Remember, it's single elimination, so anything can. You get the right matchup. So in 2011, I remember. I still believe in 2011 the Giants may not have gone to the Super Bowl if San Francisco didn't beat New Orleans.
It's possible, sure.
Definitely. I mean, like, I did not want to face Drew Brees. I'll take Alex Smith any day of the week over Drew Brees. And then I remember that game against San Francisco, which was a hair yanker. He had only completed like 1 pass to a wide receiver in that game.
Oh, yeah, I was there. I mean, the conditions were miserable. It was, yeah. That game is going to be in New Orleans. It's going to be 72 degrees. It's going to be an insane asylum, and they probably are still throwing touchdowns against us.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, exactly. So the right matchup in the playoffs, I could see them getting as far as the conference championship, but I don't think they're good enough to go to a Super Bowl. So I don't foresee that.
No.
So a win in the playoffs, I should hope so. 2 wins possible, 3 wins not happening. 4 wins definitely not happening.
No.
I'd sign up for it anyway.
Hey, my goal for this season, I've said it many times in this offseason, and I won't say it anymore, is I expect this team to have, be a better team even if the record doesn't reflect it. Now, this exercise, as I did it, had both, had a better record than last year, which I don't know if they're in reality that's going to happen because, of course, we haven't factored in things like injuries and how well other teams are playing when we play them. And, we're making assumptions about the Eagles rolling over basically in December, and all that could change. I'm still sticking with, I think this team, the eye test after 18 weeks are going to be like, this team is better than last year.
Yeah, I think there'll be genuine excitement.
And they may be watching the playoffs at home, but I still think they'll be a better team.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Tough division.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah, that's really it. Yeah. Well, shit. I hope you guys enjoyed. That was. If you first of all, if you listen to this, congratulations.
If you're still awake, yeah.
But yeah, if you listened to all of this like pen and pencil stuff, our off-season coverage, you made it. Everything going forward is going to be real reactions to real football. Training camp is real football as far as I'm concerned. Preseason is important, even if I would not spend money on going. These things are going to be real exciting. I'm amped. How you feeling?
It's the first time in a long time where I'm generally excited because it's not just part of the process. It's starting to get ready for a season that I have something really to look forward to. I mean, last year was, okay, what is this new coaching staff going to be like? A lot of unknowns, a lot of, well, let's wait and see. There was interest generated from last year that gets me excited that, yeah, now we're talking. We actually had a conversation just now. Are we going to have 1 or 2 playoff wins potentially? We haven't had that come out of our mouths.
Cocky bastards.
No, it just, I didn't say we're going to win 1 or 2, but the thought of even having them is something we have not legitimately had, in a long time. I mean, I don't know. What year was last when we lost to Green Bay? What year was that in the playoffs? 2018?
2016.
2016. How many Giants are on the roster right now that were even in the league in 2016?
Oh.
Not many.
Not many,
so,
no.
I mean, Sterling Shepard, I can think of.
Yeah, he was on the Giants, but Cole
right.
Beasley.
Yeah. Not many guys on this roster are even in the league the last time we had that. And that's a testament of how fast turnaround happens in this league and how, generational you can kind of say these things are. So this is kind of new territory for us to be in. We're not Super Bowl favorites. We're not division favorites. We might not even be a favorite to make one of the wild card spots, but we're legitimate. We're ahead of schedule, I think, on the rebuild. We still have some, roster maintenance that needs to be, done, and, some additions to depth that we're going to need to do in the next year or so
some
to get better.
Contracts to get off our books.
Exactly, to get in a better place. But a lot of work has been done in the last 15 months by this front office and coaching staff, and we'll see more fruits of that starting now.
That's right. So next episode, you will be listening to us talk about something much, much more exciting, training camp stuff. So stay tuned. Follow us on X, football_grump, at the Cranky Fan, at Just Giants Pod.
Wait, so is it officially X now, or is that just?
I don't know. I opened it to look up a thing, and the Twitter logo was gone, and now it's just a stupid X. But whatever. That commentary is for another day. But I don't think YouTube is going anywhere. So subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe on SoundCloud or iTunes or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Those don't seem to be going through any sort of ownership problems right now. So that's a pretty stable place to find this podcast. And do me a personal favor and use your words and your mouth to tell all of your other friends that you talk Giants stuff to about this show, because I don't trust X. I don't trust that my shit is being seen. I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
I think I would trust people who are taking X more than actually the app at this point. So, no, we really do appreciate it. I know we appreciate everybody listening through the off season. We try to do this show a little differently than some of the other shows. The other shows are fantastic. We recommend all of them. Listen to as many shows as you can. We try to have a little fun on this. Try to do it a little different. But now we've been vamping for 5 months, 6 months, and now it's time to really talk football again, and we're very excited. Grump has, second to none. His analysis, his film study, what he sees. I give you my opinions of what I see and everything, and we're happy to be part of the overall Giant podcast family. So just I would say subscribe to us, subscribe to all of them, subscribe to Talking Giants and all the other ones, because we're all friends and we just want to be a smart fan base.
Hell yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking out the off season with us. We hope to see you throughout training camp. We hope you stick around for all that stuff, and we hope to see you during the regular season at the games.
We hope to see you at training camp. We'll let you know when we're gonna go. We're gonna go out there a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the schedule and see what days work for us, and
we'll let you know.
Sure. All right, everyone. Till then, go Giants.
Go Giants.